Imagine stepping out, right, not into your usual morning commute, but onto the moon, into this bustling, kind of grimy frontier town nestled right on the lunar surface.
Yeah, a place where, every single breath, every drop of water, it's all engineered meticulously.
Exactly. And it's not some sterile sci-fi utopia either. It's packed with schemers, smugglers, and one very unlikely hero.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show made just for you. Today, we are plunging headfirst into Andy Weir's fantastic novel, Artemis.
We are. Our mission today is really to excavate this story. We'll peel back the layers, look at the city itself, the main character.
Right, Jazz Bashara, flawed but brilliant. And then there's the plot, this high-stakes spiral.
Absolutely. And the science. We can't forget the science Weir weaves in. It's fascinating stuff. Plus the bigger ideas, survival, morality, redemption. All on the moon.
Yeah, get ready for that classic Weir mixed gripping thriller, but with that undeniable nerdy charm. We're going to guide you through it, make it smart, make it fun.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with the setting. A city on the moon. I mean, what does Andy Weir's Artemis even look like? How does he picture this?
Well, Weir paints this picture of Artemis as humanity's first and only city on the moon. It's set maybe 60 years in our future.
First and only, wow.
Yeah, and it's this incredible feat of engineering, really. Just sticking a city out there in the void.
So what's the structure? Is it just one big biodome, or?
No, it's actually made up of 5 main domes. They're all interconnected and named after Apollo astronauts, which is a nice touch. Armstrong, Aldrin, Conrad, Bean, and Shepard.
Ah, cool. So different boroughs or neighborhoods?
Exactly. Think of them like that. Each one's kind of its own little ecosystem, but they all link up to form the city core.
Okay, but how does a place like that survive? I mean, economically. You can't just run on moon dust and good intentions.
No, you definitely can't. The economy is surprisingly robust. A big driver is tourism.
Right.
Rich people paying top dollar to visit the moon.
Makes sense. Space tourism.
Right. But there's more. There's actual lunar industry starting up. And the really critical part, exporting helium-3.
Helium-3, that's the fusion fuel thing, right? Abundant on the moon.
Precisely. Weir posits it as vital for fusion energy back on Earth. So Artemis isn't just a tourist trap, it's like a strategic resource hub.
Yeah.
Helium-3 is its biggest export, which brings in money, but also, potential conflict.
Yeah, I can see that. An energy source everyone wants. Controlled by a city on the moon. That must create some interesting social dynamics. Who's actually in charge?
Well, technically it's the Kenyan Space Agency, the KSC. In the book, they're the pioneers who legalized private space travel and moon colonization.
Kenya. Interesting choice.
Yeah, it is. But despite the KSC oversight, Artemis itself is described as, relatively lawless. It's a frontier town, basically.
So rules are kind of flexible.
Very flexible. It's remote. It grew fast, so people are making things up as they go. You get this mix of formal governance and then this whole layer of, let's say, informal enterprise, sometimes shady.
Creates pressure, I bet. Literal and metaphorical.
Exactly. You nailed it. There's the constant literal pressure of just keeping the air in, but also the societal pressure cooker of this kind of environment.
Speaking of literal pressure, air, how do they manage that? We just breathe here on Earth, but up there.
Yeah, you can't take it for granted. Every bit of life support, air, water, pressure, it's all under incredibly tight control. And the oxygen, this is cool, it isn't shipped from Earth.
No. Where does it come from?
They make it on site through electrolysis using lunar rock, specifically a northite. It's rich in oxygen.
So they're cracking rocks for air.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just a background detail. It really highlights how fragile life is up there. Everything depends on these systems working perfectly. One major glitch.
And the whole city could be in deep trouble. Suffocation. Wow, okay, so into this fragile, high-stakes environment steps our main character, Jazz Bashara. She's not your typical hero, is she? Tell us about Jazz.
No, she definitely is. Jazz is, she's brilliant. Really smart, sarcastic, and just fundamentally rebellious,
What's her deal in Artemis? What does she do?
On paper, she's just a porter. Moves goods around the city. Kind of low-level work, especially given her potential. But underneath that,
Yeah.
she's this incredibly skilled engineer and chemist. She knows the lunar systems inside out, but her side hustle, smuggling contraband.
Ah, the smuggling. Fits the frontier town vibe.
Totally. It reflects Artemis's economy, sure, but also Jazz's own resentment of authority. She's got this chip on her shoulder.
So you've got this super capable Purcell, incredibly smart, but she's actively choosing to operate outside the rules. Makes you wonder why, right?
It really does. And it makes you ask that question. What kind of choices do you make? What kind of person do you become when the rules are fuzzy, survival's the main game, and honestly, one wrong move could kill you? Jazz embodies that perfectly. That moral gray area. She's flawed, yeah, but completely magnetic because of it. She's not just breaking rules. She's trying to survive in a place where the lines are constantly shifting.
And those lines get shoved right in her face almost immediately. Her life goes from petty smuggling to something much bigger when she gets an offer from a rich businessman, Tron Landvik.
Right, Tron. He wants her for this high-risk sabotage mission. This is the inciting incident, the thing that kicks the whole plot into high gear.
Who's the target?
Sanchez Aluminum. Now, this isn't just some random company. They have a total monopoly on aluminum in Artemis.
Okay, that's big for construction and stuff.
It is, but there's more. Their smelting process, the way they make aluminum, it produces oxygen as a byproduct.
Oxygen, so they control the metal and a chunk of the air supply.
Exactly, which gives them immense power, almost terrifying power when you think about it.
Wow. Okay, so Tron wants Jazz to mess with their operations.
Yeah, specifically their harvesters. Disrupt them so his company can swoop in and grab a piece of the market.
And what's in it for Jazz? Why take such a huge risk?
The reward is massive. 1 million slugs. That's the Artemis currency. Enough money, she thinks, to totally change her life. Get out of debt, maybe go legit. It's her big chance.
1 million slugs. Okay, I can see the temptation, but how did she even plan to pull off sabotaging industrial harvesters on the moon? This sounds like it needs some serious science know-how.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where Weir's love for hard science just takes center stage. Jazz decides to use thermite.
Thermite. Isn't that the stuff that burns incredibly hot?
Incredibly hot. It's an incendiary mixture, perfect for the vacuum of space because it actually brings its own oxygen source within the chemical reaction. It doesn't need air to burn.
Huh, clever.
Yeah, it's this reaction between a metal fuel and a metal oxide. Burns hot enough to melt steel. It's destructive, sure, but also very precise if you know what you're doing. Perfect for sabotage on the moon. It really shows off Weir's grasp of applied chemistry.
So she's not just like planting a bomb, she's performing a specific chemical operation.
Yeah.
And she has to do this outside the domes, right? An EVA.
Exactly. Extravehicular activity. And this is where Weir's attention to detail with lunar physics just comes alive for the reader. You really feel it.
What's it like out there?
Imagine trying to do delicate, high-stakes work in only 1/6 of Earth's gravity, in a total vacuum. With these insane temperature swings, boiling hot in sunlight, freezing cold in shadow.
Sounds terrifying.
It is. And your suit, your EVA suit, it's not just clothing, it's your personal spacecraft. It has multiple pressure seals, oxygen tanks, the whole portable life support system.
Yeah.
It's literally the only thing between you and instant death.
The vulnerability must be intense.
Palpable. Weir really conveys the precision and the danger involved in just stepping outside.
And that danger ramps up massively because just after she pulls off the sabotage, Tron Landvik is murdered by a professional hitman.
Yeah, things escalate fast. It stops being just a risky business deal and becomes a fight for her life.
Who killed him and why?
It turns out the hitman was hired by the Brazilian mafia. They were secretly backing Sanchez Aluminum all along.
The mafia on the moon.
Yep. Organized crime reaches everywhere, apparently. And because Jazz did the sabotage, she's now a direct target. They know someone messed with Sanchez's operation.
So that 1 million slug payday just turned into a death sentence?
Pretty much. What looked like a straightforward, if illegal job unravels into this massive conspiracy. The mafia isn't just skimming profits. They're using Sanchez's monopoly to launder money and ultimately try to gain, full control over Artemis itself.
Taking over the whole city through its essential resources, that's chilling. So Jazz is running for her life, hunted by the mob, in a place where a cracked helmet means you're dead. The suspense must be incredible.
It really is.
Yeah.
She has these near-death escapes, constant threats, suffocation, exposure, getting caught. And it all ties back to that core idea.
Yeah.
This isn't just a crime story dropped onto the moon. The setting is the threat in many ways. The fight for power isn't just about money. It's literally about controlling the air people breathe, the systems that keep everyone alive. That puts this unique pressure on everything, including morality.
When you're in that deep, you need help. Does Jazz, this kind of cynical loner, manage to find any allies?
She does, yeah. Despite herself, almost. Her support network is actually pretty interesting. First, there's Dale.
Dale.
Her ex-boyfriend. He's an EVA expert, trained her, actually.
Yeah.
Their past is complicated, but he still cares about her and becomes a really crucial ally, especially with the technical stuff.
Okay, that's handy. Who else?
Then you've got Svoboda. He's this quirky, kind of eccentric scientist. Definitely brings some of that nerdy charm we talked about. He helps Jazz build some vital gadgets.
Gadgets. Like what?
You get
The sources mentioned a gas analyzer, an EMP.
Exactly. The gas analyzer is super important for detecting tiny changes in the air, mixed critical in a closed system like Artemis. A small leak could be deadly. And the EMP, well, that's perfect for knocking out electronics without leaving much physical evidence. Classic Weir gadgetry.
Clever. Anyone else?
There's Bob. He's her wealthy pen pal back on Earth. Sounds weird, but he provides essential financial backing and logistical help from afar. Shows that connections matter, even across space.
Huh. Interesting.
And finally, Tron's daughter, Lean, and his assistant, Kelvin. They eventually realize what's going on and team up with Jazz. They bring resources, different skills, and maybe a bit more of a moral compass to the operation.
So it's not just Jazz against the world. She builds this ragtag coalition. But it sounds like her own skills, her scientific knowledge, are still front and center.
Absolutely. It's not just who you know, it's what you know. And Jazz, with her allies' help, puts some serious science into play throughout the whole thing.
What kind of science are we talking about besides the thermite?
Well, Weir goes into the details of aluminum smelting on the moon, how they get the metal from that anorthite rock we mentioned. Helium-3 mining keeps coming up, reminding you of its importance for Earth's energy future.
Right, the big picture stuff.
Yeah, but also the practical stuff. Electronics hacking, using EMPs to disable systems. These aren't just plot devices. Weir shows how they might work in that high-tech lunar environment. Even the city's economy, the slub's currency, the trade, the black markets, it all feels grounded.
So the science isn't just window dressing, it's part of the engine driving the plot.
Exactly. The scientific realities create the problems and provide the solutions for Jazz. It's integral.
Okay, so the mafia is closing in, the city's future is on the line. Jazz needs a big move. What does she cook up? Another sabotage.
The second sabotage, yeah. But this time, it's way bigger. Truly audacious. She decides she needs to disable the main smelter at Sanchez Aluminum completely, not just disrupt it down.
Shut it down.
The one that also produces oxygen?
Oh.
That sounds incredibly risky.
Hugely risky. The plan involves getting past serious security, then triggering this massive power surge to fry the smelter's central control systems. The idea is to cause a citywide power outage temporarily.
A power outage on the moon. That sounds potentially catastrophic.
Yeah.
Life support, air circulation.
That's the razor's edge she's walking. It's the ultimate gamble. Everything has to be timed perfectly, executed flawlessly, to avoid compromising the basic life support for everyone in Artemis. A citywide blackout could kill everyone if it goes wrong. So the stakes are literally the survival of the entire city. How does it play out? Does she pull it off?
She does disable the smelter, yeah. It disrupts the mafia's control plan, but it goes wrong. In the chaos, she accidentally triggers a major oxygen leak in the city's main life support system.
Oh no, the one thing she couldn't let happen.
Exactly. Suddenly, the entire population is facing suffocation. Her sabotage, meant to save the city in one way, has potentially doomed it in another.
This is her moment then. After all the smuggling, the rule breaking.
It's her absolute moment of truth. She has to choose, and she does. She risks everything, puts her own life directly on the line, scrambling to fix the leak she caused. It's this incredibly tense sequence where her skills, her bravery, it all comes together.
And does she?
She manages to fix it, just barely, saves the city. And in doing so, after everything, she finally earns not just grudging respect, but genuine admiration. It's her path to redemption.
Wow, so it's not just about stopping the bad guys, it's about her finally stepping up, taking responsibility for the whole community.
Precisely. Her personal survival becomes completely tied to the survival of everyone else. It's no longer just about Jazz Bashara saving her own skin. It's about the survival of the frontier itself and her role in it, a powerful turning point.
So after all that chaos, what's the aftermath? For Jazz, for Artemis, what does this whole wild ride tell us about, human ingenuity and trying to live on the edge like that?
Well, the immediate result is the mafia's plan is thwarted. Their grip on the city is broken. And Jazz, surprisingly, maybe she doesn't end up in jail.
Really? After 2 major sabotage incidents?
Yeah, it's a mix of things. Public opinion is strongly on her side. She did save everyone, after all. Plus, there are legal technicalities, loopholes, and Artemis's still developing laws. It again highlights that unique frontier justice aspect of the city.
So she gets away with it, legally speaking. What about personally? Does she change?
Profoundly. She finally earns enough money, legitimately this time, to start her own business. And significantly, her father, who's this very devout, principled guy who deeply disapproved of her smuggling, actually helps her set it up. Their relationship starts to heal.
That's huge for her. Moving from smuggler to respected business owner, reconnecting with her dad.
It feels like a complete transformation, and it really hammers home those core themes we touched on.
Yeah, like morality on the frontier.
Exactly. What does happen to right and wrong when you're building a society from scratch, laws are shaky, and just staying alive is hard work. Jazz's whole arc explores that. Redemption, finding your identity in this extreme place.
And survival, obviously, both physical against the moon itself and personal against her own flaws and the threats she faced.
Right. And that tension between fierce individualism, which Jazz has in spades, and the need for some kind of community, some authority, even if you resent it. Artemis is the perfect setting to explore all that.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway Artemis leaves you with?
For me, it's this powerful statement about human ingenuity. That drive we have, not just to survive in impossible places, but to actually build something, to thrive, to make new lives, even on the freaking moon. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Think about how that constant pressure, the scarcity of everything, the environmental threat, how that doesn't just shape the buildings and the tech, but the society itself, the ethics, the rules, a moral compass of the people living there. What new kinds of rules emerge when survival is the bottom line?
That's a great question to ponder. A city built on ingenuity and desperation.
Okay, well, that wraps up our deep dive into Andy Weir's Artemis. What a ride, huh? From the nuts and bolts of the lunar city to Jazz Bashara's incredible, messy, and ultimately inspiring journey.
Yeah, we hope this exploration gave you a real feel for the book, the blend of hard science, thrilling plot, and those deeper questions about what it means to be human on the ultimate frontier. We really hope it did. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. If all this talk about lunar sabotage, mafia plots, and applied chemistry has you hooked, definitely check out Artemis for yourself. You won't regret it.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Keep digging deeper.